Good morning, everyone. We're starting this week the portion of A, the fourth portion in the book of Deuteronomy. And I'm sharing with you a Sicha, a talk of the Rebbe from Likutei Sichos, volume 19, the second talk. In this week's Torah portion, a portion loaded with commandments, God is giving us the framework by which we must serve Him with sacrifices. Chapter 12, verse 11 begins with the words, Ve'hoyo amokoim asher ivchar Hashem Elokecho boi, shomo takri v'olesecho uzbochecho v'cholu, etc. V'goyma. There will be a place that God will choose. Yivchar with a yud means will choose in the future. There should you bring all your sacrifices, piecemeal offering, obligatory holiday sacrifices, etc. There is a great debate whether this place, we refer to this place is not named, but we all know it is the Holy Temple. And the place in the Holy Temple is the altar. And the altar is where you bring all your sacrifices. There is a great debate why or when or how this place became holy. One opinion is, based on this text, that what makes it special is God chose. God chose. I chose this location. The Rebbe chose this town for me to be here. What makes it special? That the Rebbe chose it for me to be a shaliach. Was there anything better in another town? No, but once it's chosen. That's why the word is in the future tense. Yivchar, not bochar, that he chose already. That's the opinion. I'm giving you a concentrated so you'll get the idea. The Chinuch, Sefer HaChinuch, says that there is nothing unique about the ground of the Holy Land, nothing unique about the holy city of Yerushalayim, nothing unique about the Holy Temple, the mountain, the holy that mountain, and nothing unique about the place of the Mizbeach. All that became unique after God chose. So the holiness keeps escalating. Holy Land, Yerushalayim, Temple Mount, Holy Temple, the altar.
Don't we have somewhere where
Just a minute.
take your shoes off, you get around the holy ground?
Yeah, but this is in the desert. It was temporary. Moshe Rabbeinu. Moses in the burning bush, God told him to take off his shoes.
On the Temple Mount?
No, Moshe never made it to the Holy Land. That's the chinuch. Rambam, on the other hand, gives you a whole list of specialty to that land. It begins, and by the way, it's based on the Talmud and Mechilta. Adam was born, and Rambam, by the way, Rambam begins, the place of the altar, mechuvan beyoter, is extremely precise. The location is on the spot. Moving it an inch either direction misses the point. Why? It's the exact spot the humanity started. That's the soil God used to create Adam. That's the place that Adam asked forgiveness, bringing a sacrifice. That's the place Cain and Abel, they brought sacrifices to God, is the chosen. That's the place Abraham brought sacrifices. And that's the place that Yitzchak was brought, Abraham brought the sacrifice instead, and that's the place Yitzchak was elevated. So my question, says the Rebbe, I don't understand. How can Rambam talk about all the aforementioned specialties to this place, where the Torah tells us the place that God will choose, meaning it's not special. If it's special, there is no choice. Choice is made when you have, you choose a number from a hat for a raffle. All parts must be equally the same. If you have a car and a bicycle and you chose a car ride versus a bicycle, It's not a true choice. You favored the car because it will get you faster. It's safer. You have air conditioning. You don't have to sweat. There is reasons. If you have a reason for the specialty of the Holy Land, it's not a choice. Not only that, God does not say, I chose, I will choose, Yivchar. It does not make sense that all that has to be attached to that special land. Says the Rebbe brings a side note, but to me it's very powerful. The Tzemach Tzedek, the third Lubavitcher Rebbe in Ora Torah, brings us a parable to explain the argument between those two opinions, the Rambam versus Ramban or Chinuch. Says the Rebbe, imagine the hand that writes an idea that you had in your brains. The hand is the only one chosen to express the idea. Does the hand have the quality of the brains? Absolutely not. Can the foot express the idea from the brain? Also absolutely not. What makes the hand able to deliver the message, what I was thinking about? Nothing special unless the brains chose the hand to be the one to deliver. But it doesn't make the hand anything special. On the other hand, the idea when it resides in the brains, is the brain chosen to be keeping the idea because there is something special about the brains, or it can be residing anywhere in the body? The answer is the brain is chosen. Why? Because even though the brain is very physical material, but it does have the capacity, the ability to house the idea. Says the Rebbe, this is the two opinions. According to one opinion, the location of the Mizbeach, of the temple, is just like my hand. There is nothing unique until the brain wants to deliver the message and he chooses the hand to write it down. According to the second opinion, the Mizbeach, the altar, is compared to the brains of a human being that can house the ideas. Both of them would express the idea in my head, but one of them is a natural place for it because of the way the uniqueness of the brains, and the other one is just the brain chose to express through the hand. Did it complex things a little bit, or it helped? It didn't help. Ali, I'm asking you.
He's thinking about his holiness.
I take the fifth. I take the fifth.
Ouchie.
Says the Rebbe that it's impossible that there is a dispute. Both agree that what's unique about the place is because God will choose the place. The fact that the Adam brought sacrifices, the fact that Cain and Abel, Abraham, Yitzchak all used that place to connect to God is because they had a prophecy that later on God will choose the place. And the Rebbe proves it by the language that when Rambam starts the law regarding the location, he goes on to say that this became holy after David had purchased that from the owner, the Jebusite, Aravna Ivusi. Says the Rebbe, why does he have to tell us who is the previous owner? And part of the reason is the Rambam wants to tell us that until God chose, after 400 years after they entered the Holy Land, there was nothing unique about that location. In other words, what makes it holy is God's choice. The fact that previously they brought sacrifices and made it a very special place is because they knew about the future. The fact that Adam was created in that place, and meaning God made that choice already earlier, says the Rebbe, it's not that because God knew that it was special, but because God knew that, because Adam chose to bring a sacrifice for atonement from the same location he was born, that's what caused later God to choose that location. Did you understand that? Okay. So again, says the Rebbe that even Rambam will agree. That's why the Torah tells us, Asher Yivcha, that nothing was special about the location, until God chose. The fact that much, much earlier we find Abraham, Yitzchak, Cain and Abel and Adam making it special is because they knew in prophecy, Abraham, God himself told them where to go, right? Sacrifice of Yitzchak, God showed them with the cloud. But everybody else was a prophecy about the future, that there will be a place of atonement made on this spot, and therefore they chose it to bring atonements to connect to God. That's why there are two ways of calling the house of God in the Torah. One is the holy house, Beit HaMikdash. Beit is house, and Mikdash, Kodesh, holy. But there is another way called Beit HaBchira, the house of choice. Rambam has, when he talks about the location, he calls the law Ilchot, the laws of Beit HaBchira, the house of choice, the house that God chose. Later on, he talks about Klei HaMikdash, the utensils of the holy temple, Beit HaMikdash, the house of the holiness. But when he talks about in general, he calls it Beit HaBchira. Beit HaBchira meaning house of choice, because the choice that God will choose later is what gives it all the significance, not because there was something special done earlier. I hope I made myself clear.
But you have to believe that from the beginning of the world, God had already chosen that. It was just a matter of
Revealing it, but so I would say so, except the Torah in this week said, "Vehoyo amokoim asher yivchar," that God will choose. And we know it was a regular place. No one had any significance to it. There was nothing any significance other than what we know that Abraham and Yitzchak and Cain and Abel and Adam had connected to God. But that's why Rambam, when he talks about how it became a holy place, is what David purchased it, and he tells us where who he purchased that from, which is insignificant, except to show us that up to that point of God choosing that place, telling David that's the place, there was no significance to it. And the Rebbe points out that according to Kabbalah, there are two ways of serving God. There is one point of called bchira. Bchira means a choice. I make a choice, or God makes a choice. He chooses me. He chooses the Holy Land. But there is another way of connecting to God, which is called kedusha. Kedusha, making the place holy. My language is holy. My money is holy. My day is holy. My relationship is holy. Bchira, choice, is from God. God makes the choice. Kedusha is what I do, what I choose. So says the Rebbe, Rambam, the way Rambam works, not only the names also work that way, but actual development of the Holy Temple. The Torah begins with a place that God will choose, meaning we have not much to say. It's God's choice, making it holy, making it special, and now go deal with it. The problem with this is it may not be permanent. It's temporary. It can change. But then we have to make it holy ourselves. We need to infuse it with holiness by using it properly, by studying Torah, by following God's commandments. And then what we do is make it holy from the bottom up. We start from the bottom. And that's why the Holy Temple has two names. On one hand, Beit HaBchira, that God was choosing it. On the other hand, we call it Beit HaMikdash, because we chose to make it holy. We sanctify it. We make it the way Hashem is expecting that from us. And that's the lesson from this week's portion about the place that God will choose.
Thank you, Rabbi.
I just want to add one more point. The Rebbe says that's Rambam writes that it's not Rambam, it's Jewish law, that once God expresses his choice of that location, no other place is okay to bring sacrifices to God. Up to that point, they would bring sacrifices. Everyone can bring sacrifices in their own backyard. And they had the tabernacle in Shiloh, in Gilgal, in Nov. Those different places. While they were there, if people did not want to go into the tabernacle and do in their backyard, they could, with some exceptions. Public offerings had to be done in the temple, but private offerings can be done in my own backyard, for God's sake. Says Rambam, once God expresses his choice that that's the location, it will never move. You're not allowed to bring sacrifices anywhere outside that location. Why? Because God has made, once he makes that choice, it's permanent and excludes everything else, even temporarily. And as opposed to, I think it's a significant piece of information. When God chose David, he told David that the kingdom will never cease from his seeds, from his descendants. Yet temporarily, there was a time where the kingdom was not given to the children of David, but from a different tribe. There was a time there was no Judea king, no Davidian seed king, other ones, but it was temporary. And then it was returning. It took about 30 years, 40 years, and then it went back. When it comes to the temple, says the Rebbe, the fact that God had chosen that place, Asher Ivcha, is permanent in a way that it can never be removed, even temporarily. So if you cannot bring sacrifices in that location, there is no other location, no other choice. Yes,
Did
yes.
the sacrifices start when David moved the
No, it starts when
in Shlomo?
well, in the temple,
Yeah.
when it's dedicated, when the
Okay,
temple
so,
was
so when
dedicated.
David moved the ark to Jerusalem,
Jerusalem was a temporary dwelling.
so until Shlomo built the
Right.
thing, there were no the sacrifices could be done anywhere.
Anyway, yes.
So,
Thank you and have a good Shabbos, everybody.
Thank you, Rabbi.